Hi guys, thanks for joining me today. So I thought it would be a fun idea to tell you guys the story of how I became a full-time self-employed artist. I've actually made a video similar to this one before. It's called Making Income on the Internet or something similar to that. That was done like 3 years ago, just about. And I don't think I really get into the details as much as I want to right now. I think everybody's story is different and how everybody gets there is different. So before I get into all the technicalities that led up to the recent past almost 4 years of doing this full time, I'm gonna go a little bit further back because I think that my childhood and the things that I did as a kid really set the stage for what I would be doing right now, and I think it's very important. It basically, laid down the basic groundwork for me to then be able to do this later in my life. So as a child, since I could remember, I was painting, I was drawing, I was obsessed with making art. When I was an infant, I was already holding a pencil properly and I was just drawing down little dot scribble faces, and I've always done that. It's just who I was. I don't remember when I began making art. It's just a part of me. It's basically my identity at this point, and it always has been. I was always an artist. When I was 6 years old, my mom and I immigrated to the United States. We moved to Brooklyn, New York from Ukraine. And it was just my mom and I. She was divorced, so she was a single mom raising me by herself in this crazy cutthroat city. Because my dad wasn't really in the picture, he wasn't really interested in being a parent, my grandparents basically helped raise me. My grandparents and my aunt, and they are incredibly close to me. I loved them so much. I still do. They're still very, very close to me. And that's basically my family. So it's my mom, my grandparents, my aunt, my mom's sister, and her son, who's my cousin, who I consider my little brother. That's my family and the people that are the closest to me in this entire world. And obviously my sister, she came a little bit later, but this was before my sister. This is when I was a kid. I was like 6 years old, so we moved to America, and it was just my mom and me. That was it. And it was a really, really difficult time, and I had like childhood depression because I missed my family so much, and being in school was really difficult, and I was bullied because I was foreign and I couldn't speak English, and even the teacher bullied me, which was really weird. Whatever, I'm not gonna turn this video into the story of like my first week of school ever in America, which is just a disaster and a shit show, but we're not gonna get into that right now. That's not what this video is about. My mom and I really missed our family, and so she got this little camcorder, and we would tape these videos while we're around the city. In our home, I would show my grandparents like the art I was making and just what we're eating. We were basically vlogging before it was called vlogging. We were just doing that for my grandparents, and then we would put it on this cassette of VHS and we would ship it across the seas, and my grandparents would then watch it, and they also did the same for us. So that was sort of our way to keep in contact. And Skype wasn't around back then, video chats weren't around back then. We're talking dinosaur computers, it was the 90s, that stuff was not around yet. I would actually use the camcorder when my mom wasn't home, and I would record these ridiculous videos and like skits of me just goofing off and doing dumb stuff, and I'm like, man, I wish I could have my show, I wish people could watch it. But that basically set the foundation for me and my interest in cameras and photography and videography, because my mom taught me how to use the camcorder, and like I was recording her, she was recording me. We would just constantly do these like different pans and shots of where we are, and just sharing our lives with my family who couldn't be there with us. And that was our way of staying in touch, aside from being on the phone, of course. There's actually, I remember this landscape I did when I was a child. I was like 7 or 8 years old. I started when I was 7, then I turned 8. And I just remember finishing it, and it was this huge landscape I did in chalk pastels, and I was so proud of it, and I still have the image in my mind, but we have that video somewhere in a box somewhere. I have to like find it and convert it to a digital file so I can show you guys that I'm not just making this shit up. When I was like 8 years old, we got a computer, and we had Windows 95 on it. We also got AOL, America Online. We had a dial-up internet connection. That's when I really became fascinated with the internet, because there were like these, I had like the kids version, I couldn't go on any bad sites or anything like that. I had parental controls, and so I had like the kids chat room options, the kids forum, basically everything that was restricted to kids. But given that, I learned so much from the internet. I really became fascinated with the fact that you can connect with so many people that are around the country and around the world. That was just mind-blowing to me as a child because I was so lonely growing up. I didn't have a little sibling, I didn't have family, and so it was just me and my mom, and the fact that I could go on the internet and communicate with people, like, I suddenly felt less alone, and that was just so fascinating to me. Skip forward like 2-3 years. I was 11 years old. I've been like really internet savvy at this point. I was helping my mom out in the computer and like all this stuff. I was just super into it. I acquired a digital Photoshop-esque program. I think it was called Paint Shop Pro, and it also had Animation Shop on it where you can make GIFs. So I was basically drawing GIFs out like frame by frame in MS Paint, and I was making these little like 15-second, 13-second cartoons that I drew out frame by frame. I was learning how to use this digital art program called Paint Shop Pro. I was learning all about like layers and paintbrushes and just all this stuff. It was so much fun. At 11 years old, I became really fascinated with building websites and creating your own website, and I decided to learn HTML. I found a website that taught HTML in a very, very simple way. I think it was actually intended for kids. I learned HTML. I learned how to read codes, I learned how to script basic stuff, and then I would find other website codes and I would like view the script of them, and I would like try to decipher what was in it and then alter it into my own layout, and eventually I actually built my own website. When I was 12, I released my very, very first website that I coded from scratch. It wasn't my own domain name like I have right now, lenadanya.com. It was, you know, like a name that I made up, .tripod.com. So it was a subdomain. I didn't have my own money at that point. Like, I wasn't gonna pay for a domain monthly like I do now. So it had to be a subdomain, which was free, and it was hosted on a site called Tripod. I don't know if there's still a web host, but back then it was. I'm not even gonna say the name of the site because it's so embarrassing. Oh my god. On this website, I basically shared my own graphics, like little backgrounds that I made that people could then go there and use them. I actually provided little codes on the bottom for that particular background that you can copy and paste it onto your homepage or your website, and it's gonna put the background in a pattern, like on repeat. And I had a variety of other like dumb little kids graphics that I like to use as well, and it ended up getting like 200 visitors every single day. Like, I had a little tracker on it, and it would show me that about 200 people were visiting it every single day. And I think it was because of Neopets, because I don't know if you guys ever went on Neopets, but basically you had like this little shop you can set up and you can decorate it with graphics because it was HTML friendly. And so a lot of people who went to my site would take my backgrounds and put them in their Neopets shop, and that's basically how it spread.
Okay, so I forgot to mention this in the video, but I was super into Neopets, and I joined their little pet art contests, and I actually won a few of them, and I even got comics published in the Neopian Times. So what up, Neopets?
So that was my first forte into like sharing my art or my graphics and having a website. So I was 12 at that point. When I was 13, I just got really into drawing anime, and I was just obsessed with anime in general. And so I would draw it like in pencil and with colored pencils and watercolor. And then when I was 14, 15, I downloaded Photoshop and I started to color my anime lines digitally, and I also used open canvas. I would make all this digital art of my anime drawings. I'll probably share some of them because they actually still exist. Then I was really into photography, and I had like a crappy little Kodak camera, and I would just make all these photo manipulations. They're actually still on my DeviantArt to this day. Like, my DeviantArt, if you actually go on there like all the way back, you'll see these images I took. And then when I was 16, I got my first full-time job for the summer. I was a medical receptionist at a doctor's office. It was a pain management facility, so I dealt with a lot of patients that were addicted to pills and were a little crazy. And I saved up enough money to buy myself my own DSLR camera. It was a Canon 350D, a Canon Rebel. It was like their first digital Canon Rebel model, which is actually a much older version of the camera I use now. It just didn't have the film capability on it. And so then I got really into photography and just like learning about cameras and how to shoot manually and all this stuff. Throughout this entire time, I was sharing my work online. I was already sort of gaining a bit of traction for my work. I had people who were interested in it. I sold little photography prints on DeviantArt because they had the option to do that. My fascination with the internet, with cameras, and with art all formed in a way that made this a very natural process for me. Social media, working with cameras and making art and sharing it online, building websites, this was a very natural process for me. This was all things that I taught myself how to do thanks to the internet when I was a child. When I graduated high school, I took a gap year where I just worked and I was saving up money. I took that money, I bought a car, a used car, and I needed it to drive myself to school. I went to community college for a year and I didn't major in anything. I was actually undecided because I had no idea what I wanted to do. I mean, I knew what I wanted to do, which is what I'm doing now, but I did not really believe that I was going to achieve that. And I thought, well, I'm just gonna go to college, I'm gonna get a feel for it and, you know, see what I like and then change a major to something that I'm actually interested in. Crappy situation with a professor who basically screwed me over. I was like, this is not okay. Like, my future is in the hands of these people, and these people aren't here because they are passionate about education. They're here because they want to pay their bills, and they don't really give a shit if they screw over a student and make a mistake, which is what happened to me. And I know this doesn't apply to every professor I had. I actually had some really good ones, but two particular ones turned me off of college like for a while. And so I didn't go back for year two, mind you, and I already had started my YouTube channel as I was entering college, so I was already sharing my art and posting my work online. People were finding me. And so as I left college, I was still working. From the people that were finding my videos and finding my art online, they were starting to message me and ask me if I'm selling any of my art. And at that time I wasn't, and I thought, well, if people want it, maybe I should just put some of it out there. And so I started to do eBay auctions. I also had an Etsy shop back in the day, and people were actually buying my work, and I was just fascinated and mind blown. Like, I suddenly had this extra little source of income from my art. It was nowhere near enough to survive full time, but it was happening. And then I also became a YouTube partner, and this is when you actually had to be approved by YouTube staff and have enough subscribers and views to become a partner. And I'd waited a whole year, and finally I was approved as a partner. I wasn't making anything. I was making like $100 every 5 months. But I was so thankful for that $100. Then people started messaging me, asking me if those same paintings that I had already sold were available. And I said, no, I'm sorry, they're sold out. And they were like, well, do you have any prints of it? And I said, no, sorry. And then I figured, well, maybe I should make prints of my work available. And so I kind of entertained that thought for a few years. I never actually did. I was still working in restaurants. I was bartending at this point, so I was making a little bit more money. It was basically like a few years that I was still working, I was making art with all the free time that I had. I would come home from my double shifts, I was exhausted, and I would come home and make art. In 2013, I really took it seriously. I decided that I didn't want this to just be a side gig for me. I didn't want this to just be a hobby. I wanted this to consume my existence. I wanted to do this full time and make more art and have more time to do art, not just go to a job all day and then come home and be exhausted and try to just drag art out of myself. I wanted to actually do it full time. And at that time I actually had a lot of requests for prints, so I decided to invest all the money that I had, which was not that much really, but everything I did, I just poured it all into art. I poured it into my YouTube channel, into making prints, and it ended up carrying me. I no longer needed to work in restaurants. I could just survive off of this full time. The first year was really tough. I was like really cutting it close as far as like my monthly bills goes. I really wasn't making a lot at all. That's pretty much the story. Like I've just always done this stuff. I was really interested in computers when I was a kid. I was interested in art and making videos and editing. Like all of that was always something that was fascinating to me, and I learned how to do a lot of it as I was a child. So nothing that I learned in college helped me in this whatsoever. It was all the things that I learned to do as a child, like work with digital editing programs, coding, building websites, sharing my art online, using the internet, like all that stuff is what I do today. I'm not trying to promote dropping out of college. I'm not trying to advocate that you do everything that I did, because this is my own unique story. It might not work out that way for you. It could work out differently. And so please don't try to like follow my footsteps to the T, because I really don't want to make any promises that I can't keep. Or guarantee success of any kind for anyone. I don't know your individual story. I don't know what your situation is. You're gonna have to figure that out for yourself. Every situation is unique. This was mine. I really believe in the value of education. I believe that it's incredibly important. To this day, I continue to educate myself in as many ways that I can. I do a lot of research online. I read a lot of books about business, about art, about productivity, just all these different topics that really help me with my work and have helped me grow a lot. Am I gonna go to college again someday? I don't know, maybe, but it's gonna be for a topic that I'm actually interested in. Not because I have to be there, because this is what society expects me to do, because this is what everybody expects me to do, because I won't be respected if I don't get a degree. Like, I just stopped caring about that stuff. I'm like, I don't need this crap. I don't care what anybody thinks of me. I want to work really hard and work at something I really love to do, and that happens to be painting. It happens to be art. I've always loved working with cameras. I've always loved producing videos and editing. That's all of that is my passion. So social media was a great aid for me to really get my art out there and find collectors who resonated with my work and wanted to purchase it. You know, the fact that anybody buys my work is just mind-blowing to me. It really is surreal to me that there are people out there who want to support what I do and support my art. Like, that really means so much to me. Oh god. I feel the waterworks coming. This is getting personal. Oh, okay. No! Don't cry, Lena! Don't cry on camera! Get it together, Lena! Get it together! But really, it's what I've always wanted to do, and that it's really my passion and what I care about. I need to stop. I wake up every single day and I'm so grateful, and I want to share so much, and I want to help you guys with your own art, or to inspire you, or show you a way to be happy, and just inspire you to be passionate and live passionately and make art, and or whatever art form that may be, whether it's music, acting, singing, writing, dancing, cooking, like to just do it and not doubt yourself and not let negative voices, whether they're external or internal, like get in the way and interfere, because it really has changed my life. Living passionately and creating and just doing this has changed my life so much. I used to be really depressed. I used to hate myself. It wasn't a good place to be. And that led me to people that were in the same boat, if not worse, and really toxic and damaging. And finally getting out of that and being in a place where I'm happy and I feel safe and I feel on the right path. I feel like I'm living with purpose. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I have no doubts. I have no questions about what I should be doing in the world. Like, I feel like I've actually found my purpose, and you guys allow that to happen. So I just want you to know that I'm really thankful for that, and it's what I've always wanted to do. So I'm just really thankful, and I appreciate you guys and love you all so much, and all your feedback and the stories you share with me about your life. It touches my heart so much, and it's a very humbling experience. I just become more thankful every day. That's pretty much my story. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm sorry if it was boring. I just talked about all this like stuff. Hopefully it was interesting, but thank you for watching. I will see you in my next video. Bye! Internet hug! Yay!